Cory Booker, Senator Cory Booker, is the son of two IBM executives. He grew up in a rich, all-white New Jersey suburb. Then he went to Stanford and Yale Law School. And then he went to Oxford on a Rhodes Scholarship. Almost nobody in America is more privileged than Cory Booker. You couldn't be more privileged than Cory Booker. But now it's the 2020 presidential race, so Booker has recast himself as a victim. Poor Cory Booker. So his supporters are lashing out at Pete Buttigieg, who is ahead of Booker in the polls. Buttigieg is winning, they say, because he has more privilege than Booker. And by the way, he does have a lot of privilege, which he, of course, denies. But this is how the modern Democratic Party works. In March, Stacey Abrams said that Beto O'Rourke's popularity was because, you guessed it, racism.
Why Beto O'Rourke and not Andrew Gillum and not Stacey Abrams as, you know, the darling of the media?
I don't think that success is zero-sum, so I don't want to disparage or take away from the reaction and the legitimate response people had to his campaign. But I do want to call the question, and I would challenge people to consider why we were not lifted up in the same way. I think race plays a part.
Another graduate of Yale Law School. They all went to Yale Law School. Rashad Ritchie. I don't know if you went to Yale Law School, but he's a radio show host and former political director of the Democratic Party of Georgia. He joins us. You didn't? Good for you. I'm glad. I didn't either. So I gotta say, I have mixed feelings about this, but I just gotta throw it out there. It's a little weird. The party that's against white privilege has elevated all these older white men to positions of prominence in the Democratic primary, isn't it?
Well, you can't contextualize this dynamic through partisan politics, Tucker. And here's the truth of the matter. White privilege is a thing. And I know many will say, well, this is simply something outside of the political hemisphere, but really it's also inside and outside of the political hemisphere. Let's talk about Mayor Pete. You just talked about how Mayor Pete is doing well in the polls because Cory Booker or Cory Booker allies are saying this has to do with white privilege. You forgot to mention the part where Mayor Pete himself said this has to do with white privilege, that he himself has been a white man for 37 years in the United States.
What?
And he has interacted as a white man in the United States.
Well, he's been a white man for 37. Wait, hold on.
That's right, Tucker.
He's been a white man for 37 years. Has he been arrested for this, or is this just no one noticed until now? He's now admitting it? Like, how did this happen in the Democratic Party? He spent 37 years as a white man and nobody called. I'm just
All right, so I'm going to finish my point now, Tucker.
How did your party get so racist? He's been a white man in the United States for 37
years. Well, listen to the point. Because of that, he's best able to articulate his own experience as a white male in American society. And let's go beyond just these two candidates, because I think it's unfair to create some microcosm to explain a macrocosm of race in this societal construct. The term white privilege is probably overused. I prefer the term white preference. White preference goes back to the 1940s when the Clark-Dahl study was done, where you had two psychologists that put a white baby, a doll, in front of a black baby doll in front of black children. Well, those black children in a segregated society chose the white baby doll as the one who was well behaved, as the one that was smart, as the one that was beautiful. Fast forward to an integrated society. That study has been duplicated, Tucker, over and over again by psychologists, and the results are still the same. It comes from somewhere.
But let me just ask you a sincere question. There's all this white privilege, there's all this unconscious racism, we've got to smash it, we're all doing our best, we're as woke as we can be. But why isn't John Hickenlooper benefiting from this? He seems very white to me, seems incredibly privileged, and yet he's at the very bottom of the polls. When does he get to use some of this white privilege power, or preference power, as you say?
Once again, Tucker, you are utilizing a microcosm to explain a macrocosm. Taking political figures like Joe Biden or Senator Booker to explain a dynamic that exists with regular everyday people is probably not the best example. We're talking about statistical data. For example, from 2005 to 2008. Let's take New York City.
Okay, give it to me quick. We're almost out of time.
In New York, very quick. In New York City, 2005 to 2008, 80% of people who were stopped and frisked, part of that system, were African Americans. They were 42% less likely to actually have a weapon than a white person, and only 10% of white people during that same time were part of that stop and frisk phenomena. So that's a problem.
They were not 42% less likely than white citizens to have a firearm. That's just not true.
Yes, they were. Yes, they were.
Actually,
you're
wrong.
Go ahead and do the study. I did the study right before I came on this show.
Okay. Well, we'll rush to Google right after. But, Mr. Ritchie, I appreciate the rest.
Please do.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.